Awesome. Welcome to our webinar on how to empathize and understand your clients in tough times. You should be able to see the PowerPoint that I'm sharing on the other screen, so I'll go through that. I'll also have the Q&A open function, so if you want to ask questions, I'll be looking at that as I go through. It won't throw me off, so if there's any questions as we go through that you suddenly want me to answer, I will answer those. Just so you're aware, it is being recorded as you'll see there, and we will send you out post-event a copy of the recording so you can watch it at your heart's delight. We'll also send through what the learning outcomes were today in case you need it for CPD, and we'll send some other material which we'll go through today, some tools about how you can track client actions and all that kind of good stuff. So welcome. Apologies for the false start, but without any further ado, I'll crack on. So today we're going to talk about how you can empathize and understand your clients in what has been a tough year. These are tough times we're experiencing. Your clients are no different. So yes, let's move on. Here's what we're going to discuss today. You can all read, but we're actually going to go through how to better understand your client's challenges, how to communicate and relate better with your client, some tips on how you can be a bit more empathetic and understand your client a bit better, how to maintain that good communication and ultimately try and win more work, because that's what we're all here for. Within that, actually, how to increase your chances of future work and referrals, because the world we work in professional services and who we have here on the call today, referrals are the key to growing your business, but quite often they're left to chance. And if we leave them to chance, that's not the best way to go. And then we'll talk about when you should and shouldn't ask for work and all those kind of things. And we'll probably touch a little bit on about that very modern phenomenon, what to do when someone ghosts you. Never fun. And on the eve of Halloween, we probably should talk about what you should do when people ghost you as well. So just to set this in context, I thought it'd be good to look at current economic outlook, if good's the right word when we're looking at the current economic outlook. So this is looking at what the OECD figures are showing us across the global areas. And yes, we have moved out the recession officially and we're starting to move into a growth phase. But if you look at it there and the predictions of what people are saying, that growth is not huge. If anything, it's almost more static and starting to just pick up in certain areas. Good news is more activity in services for those on the call, but consumer confidence does remain low. And the projected increase in GDP globally isn't high, not at all. If you look at some of those figures there, and of course New Zealand here are not on the list, but Australia being the closest one there, 1.1% growth prediction isn't that strong when you look at 1.1% or 2%. It's pretty low. And if we dig in and look at Australia itself, the economic outlook hasn't been great. It definitely stalled in the first half this year. So those of you on the call from Australia, you will have noticed that the first part of the year was tough. Unemployment remains high. GDP is pretty low at 2% there. And inflation, the good news is all the measures that everyone's been taking globally are starting to see inflation globally come down. So we're starting to see the shoots of recovery, but it's not going to be a dramatic recovery. It's just going to be a gradual increase into 2025. And coming aboard, because New Zealand does exist, and here we are, these are stats from our Treasury. Again, GDP per capita is actually lower than anticipated. But one of the big things that we felt here and those in the infrastructure and construction sector will have felt particularly is that residential investment and private investment has gone down. And we've seen less investment from government. So it went up dramatically in COVID and it's been cut back quite sharply and quite fastly. Whatever your views on that, what it does mean is actually there's a lot going on and a lot of restriction in that kind of infrastructure and building space, which means there's less work out there. Unemployment is higher. We have seen firms starting to restructure. We've seen that on both sides of the Tasman here. So there's a lot going on. While the recovery is starting to improve, people and your clients are still in that position where they're still going through the tough decisions. They're still trying to work through what has been a reduced economy, and certainly will be a reduced economy from a year ago or 2 years ago. So they're seeing that the impacts of that creeping forward, and that has an impact on how they're feeling. And this is kind of a summary of what your clients have been feeling. Certainly this year, uncertainty has been a big one. very unconfident. There's been a lot of avoidance of trying and denial of what's going on. People are just generally worried about what's happening. And we've seen these phrases like survive until 25, which, while understandable, is not a very good mindset in terms of going forward trying to produce growth. If people are just trying to survive, they're looking at measures of cost cutting, doing more with less, seeing if they can make do, hiring freezes. They feel cash poor. And this isn't just because of this world, because of rising interest rates, because people have less disposable income. When you at home have less to play with and you feel not so cash rich, it flows into how you feel in business as well, because we're humans. So that feeling of trying to not spend too much, trying to live within your means, that's how businesses are starting to act as well. The good news is they're starting to come out of that a little bit. There'll be some more encouragement, I suspect, from a lot of governments trying to do that. But it does mean there has been a slight cool off. People have been worried for their jobs. People have been looking at overseas options. So what's really interesting on this call, having both sides of Tasman on here, is we've actually seen, particularly in the legal industry, but certain other industries as well, particularly engineering and construction, a lot of people are leaving New Zealand to go and work in Australia where they feel the economy is stronger and better. And no doubt people would then start to move again to Europe. So we'll start seeing that brain drain kicking in this side of the world where people are moving across, which will have clients feeling a little bit uncertain about how they're going to, when the economy picks up, how they're going to resource it, how they're going to find that. When infrastructure projects and big spend starts kicking back in, people are going to worry about how they're actually going to compete, resource it, and do it in a good way when there's less people out there and less talent for them to actually go and attract. So now I'm going to look about how you actually better understand the individual challenges your clients are facing. So what's going on in their world? What are they actually thinking about right now? And there's lots of ways you can start to understand your client's industry, and that's the most important part. If you look back at some of the slides we showed earlier, certain parts of the industry are doing well, certain parts are doing less well. Some are more affected than others by a recession, which is always typical, and it will have impacts on different things. Retail, hospitality, globally has really, really suffered during this as well. But having a look at there, you can set Google Alerts up and alerts on your own system. You can follow the news. You can look at their websites and news pages and all those kind of things. It's always important to look at the main competitors' websites as well. But the internet will only tell you so much. It's really important to go out to conferences, events, measure the mood, talk to people, try and find out what's going on in that industry. They'll tell you a lot more than what's advertised. Marketeers will always try and put the positive or a good spin on things or try and promote the business. They won't necessarily give you the underlying problems or issues that individuals are facing. And then there's the reports, much like we looked at the OECD figures. McKinsey, Big Four, others put really good industry reports out there that will focus on sectors. They'll give you details. If you know that your economy lags behind another economy in the world and follows them, it's good to see where they are and see those trends are setting. And just seeing where the general investment and flow of money is going is really, really important. If you can follow the flow of money, you can see how people are feeling, where it's going to pick up. So reading those industry reports is really, really important to kind of understand what's going on in your client's world. But much like a cake, your client has layers, so they'll be feeling things in different ways in different areas. I like to use a kind of cake analogy in those layers to really understand someone and try and dig a little bit deeper on what goes on into their world. So the first thing, as we've touched on here, is globally. What's happening that will affect their industry, their role in a global level? What's those impacts of those things that are going on? What's globally going to have an impact on that client? And then bringing that down a step, what's happening nationally? So what's going on within their border, within their region, potentially even within their state? What's actually happening that's going to affect that client? What's going to have an impact on them? What's the government doing directly on them? And government's moment will be really, really important if we look at what's going on in the US and the election there. However that will turn out, and I'm not going to give you any good news or bad news depending on your persuasion here. We don't know. It's very very close to call, but that will have an impact on whoever gets in on how the economies globally play out. And the same as elections happen nationally and shifts in focus start to happen and tax laws or spending changes, that no national impact will happen, as well as what's going on in the sector. And then there's what's going on at the company level. So what's actually happening with them in a company, them compared to their competitors. Understanding what's going on in their company, how they're feeling, how they've gone through the last years, what their plans for growth are, how they're placed, what they're trying to do. That's really, really important. And then there's an individual as well. So the last few years have certainly been some of the most challenging and interesting that anyone's ever experienced. I was hoping I would get through this presentation without mentioning the COVID word, but I've slipped up, so there it is. But we've gone through that as well. We've gone through all the uncertainty of that. We've gone through working in a very different way. We've gone through, in this part of the world, Melbourne having the most amount of time experience within an actual lockdown, closely followed by Auckland. And that has an impact on people's psyche. And then we've come out of that, and as things in the world starts to take place again, we've then gone into huge inflation, reduced economy, reduced spend, tougher times to do business, more uncertainty. In some ways, actually a harder time to do business and actually more of a recession now there actually wasn't during the COVID years. And actually some businesses, particularly in professional services, are doing really well during that time. So it's been hard. And from an individual level, that has an impact. So their aspirations, what they've experienced, where they want to go, whether they want to stay in that industry, whatever they want to do, those things are really worth trying to understand. So you have to try and think on all those 4 levels if you really want to understand what's going on with a client and what's important to them. But if you want to understand a client, you need to start sort of looking at them. And the best way to do it, and we'll share this tool with you, is to analyze it and create your own kind of chart of what it is. And here's an interesting way of looking at it here with this, what I've got here in this sheet. So the first thing is to look at kind of their challenges and opportunities. And it may well be they're struggling with staff shortages, could be interest rates being high, might be regulatory change. All these things could be happening here. So understanding what's going on with them, then understanding, is it an industry issue? Is it something that's affecting the whole industry? Yes or no? Is it something that's affecting their company or their organization? Quite often those two, if it's affecting the industry, it will affect their company and organization, but sometimes they are different. And an individual, sometimes those areas won't have an impact on that individual that you're talking to or working to, but sometimes it will. And then what's the priority to the client? How much do they want to solve this? How much are they just going to either ride it out, wait for the interest rates to just change, or how much of it an issue is it? How much is it actually holding them up? How much is it stopping them from what they're doing? Then it's important to understand, is it something that your firm or what you do you can help with, or is it something you need someone else to help with? And then if it is you, what solution or information can you take to the client? And actually, interestingly, if it isn't you, what solution or information can you take to the client from someone else? One of the best ways to kind of build rapport with your client is actually, if you can't help them, but you know they need help with something, it's their top priority. And the thing you can help with them is maybe it's priority 3, less important. Is to help them work through that issue or challenge they've got now. That number 1 priority. Try and find someone in your network, try and reach out, try and do some research, try and find someone that can help them with that problem and work them through it. Introduce them, check in, make sure you're helping them through that problem. As you do that, that problem will hopefully go away. And what was a priority 3, the thing that you can help them with, 1 will come up. And actually, when the time is right and they want to tackle that problem, they're much more likely to come to you because you've already helped them. And if someone's helped you, you're far more likely to go to them and look for them to be the one that helps you, because after all, they've helped you with something they didn't actually get money for. They just wanted to help you along. And that builds trust and rapport with someone. We're wired that way. I think it's really important when you're sitting down and looking at your key clients or those you really want to work with or those your prospects you're trying to work with, to start mapping it out, start understanding what challenges and opportunities they may face. If you can't fill in all this information at the first go, at least you've got the overall. You know what you can talk to them about, those areas that may or may not be important, and start filling them out and trying to find out what's important to them. You may not know all the answers if you start now with a client, but it at least helps you frame that conversation, start to understand them a lot better. We're now going to move on to how you can communicate with and relate to your client, how you can get on their agenda, not your agenda. And if we're on their agenda, we're obviously on the right place, and we're really starting to build that rapport. And it's really important to be proactive in your communication, particularly when people are feeling vulnerable or unconfident or unsure. They actually, if you can take the initiative and be proactive and come to them, that's really going to have a massive impact. And with that in mind, just check in. One of the things that's most powerful is if someone just checks in, sees how things are going. You'll have friends to do that. You'll have colleagues in your network that do that, people who just check in. I know as a business owner, and particularly as a solo business owner, when people do check in, it's really, really appreciated. Because they know times are tough and they know things are hard. And your clients will feel exactly the same. And when people check in on you, you feel the same. So just taking that time, 5 minutes, dropping an email, messaging, whatever it is, to say, look, hey, I know it's a bit rough out there. Just want to check in, see how you're doing, see how things are going. People really, really appreciate that. Next one is use that research you've got already. If you've already looked at that and you've looked at articles and things that are important in that industry, you'll know some of the issues and challenges people are facing. You'll have come across some articles that might help them or some white papers that might help them. Share it. Say, hey, look, these challenges are there. I've come across this. Page 7 might be really, really helpful to you. Or it may just be that, you know, hey, it backs up what you said you're feeling. The stats are showing this. Here it is. Just send that. Show that you're proactive. Show that you care. Next one is be clear and concise. When people are feeling a little bit stressed or a little bit pressurized, clear, concise communication is always key. Explain why you want to help them. Explain what you're checking in for. Be clear. Be concise. It helps calm the nerves and ease the pressure. And again, much appreciated. And people are missing stuff at the moment. Response rates are low, so it's okay to remind people and nudge them, but do it gently. Do it in a nice way. Look, I just haven't heard from you in a while. A little bit concerned. Hope nothing's going wrong at your end. Just want to check in. We're still working on this. Is that something still of interest to you? Just little nudges. Or, I know what it's like. You're trying to do more with less. It's a pressurized environment. Just let you know it's a slip for a couple of weeks. Let me know if I can help with anything or if it's something you've got underhand. Or in hand, I should say, not underhand. That's a bit different. But yes, nice little gentle reminders with the clear and concise language, unlike what I just did there. Let's look about how you stay in touch, because it's really important to stay in touch in a meaningful way to show you care, and also with the right stuff. So do inform people of any changes that happen. There's a lot going on. Regulatory, legal changes happening. And that doesn't matter if you're a lawyer or not. Being aware of them if it relates to planning or things that unlock the market is really important to understand that. Financial and tax changes are happening all the time. Again, great if you're in that accounting and financial space, but even if you're not, being aware of it, knowing which ones may affect your client and just forwarding it on. Some of the best stuff I've seen is when people have forwarded on updates from a different firm in a different area and said, hey, look, they've summarized this really well. These are the law changes, or these are the financial changes. I'm sure some of them might have an implication on some of the stuff we were discussing. Have a read and let me know if you need any help or you want to dig deeper. Really, really good stuff. Invite people to events and seminars. If it's one that's relevant to them and you've got a little bit of budget and it's a ticket, buy them a ticket if it's important to them. Invite them along. Say, hey, look, I'm going to this. Thought you might like it as well. Would you like to come? Invite people along, whether you host them yourself or if they're external conferences or seminars. it can be really, really powerful to take them along. They will obviously have a conversation with you if they've invited you, because most people are polite that way. But it also means you're in a relaxed setting where people are discussing what's going on in the industry. They will share and talk to you about those big issues and the things they're feeling. It's really easy to invite them. Also, I'd also say, actually, in terms of how you stay in touch, don't be afraid to call people. Everyone's now sort of email and messaging, and sometimes the most powerful thing is just pick up the phone and chat for 5 minutes or so. People tend to ignore calls a lot less. Admittedly, when people are in meetings, they do ignore them. But even if people leave a message, I know that if I get a message, I'm more likely to call someone back and respond to it. Sometimes with emails, they just get lost. So yeah, be courageous, pick up the phone, particularly if you know someone, just give them a call. It makes a lot of sense. And then put out offers. If you know that they're working on some other stuff, suggest they meet someone else in your network. Try and be helpful. Someone within your firm, sometimes that makes sense as well, to broaden the relationship while they're working through some issues. Just keep it moving along. And most importantly, when you're dealing with clients and they're reducing spend, or maybe they're not spending with you, but you know probably in the next 6, 12, 18 months at some point they will be spending with you, have a plan for how often you're going to talk to them. Your time is valuable, as their time is valuable. So you don't necessarily want to talk to someone every week. It seems a little bit much and a bit pestery, particularly if they don't actually have anything they want to work with you right now. But at the same time, you want to keep that relationship, keep helping them. So think about the frequency of how often you need to speak to that person, what they would appreciate, what's going to work with you and what you're working on right now, so that it's frequent enough without being a pest, and frequent enough so that it's not taking up too much time with relation to the other stuff you're doing, which is actually producing revenue. So it's having that balance in place, taking time to think about it, and having a plan for how often you're going to stay in touch with someone. Of course, if you're not sure how often you should stay in touch with someone, ask them. Ask them how much you would like them to stay in touch with them. How much contact do they need? So look, I appreciate you're going through a bit of a freeze, and budgets are tight and things going on. We want to help you, work through the issues right now. How often do you want me to sort of check in with you? How often should we stay in touch? Put the onus on them. If they tell you and you stick to that, then it's going to be really, really successful. Quite often we try and guess at some of the simplest things in client relationship building, because we feel we should know it. And yet the most courageous and simplest thing to do is just ask. If you ask someone and then you stick to what they've requested, then that's going to build huge rapport. You're going to get the timing right. You're going to get the way you're going to communicate with them right. So pass the baton to them, find out what's important to them, and stick to it that way. And with that in mind, and we're using too many sports analogies here, so if you're not a sports fan, I apologize, but they kind of work. Set some ground rules for people. Find out what the best days and times are to communicate with someone. For the last few years, when I've had a team and I worked in-house, and when I had a team here at the BD Ladder, I didn't want internal meetings between sort of 2:30 and 3:30, because that was school pick up and drop off. And if I can keep that time free, it's easier on a family basis. I'm also more responsive because I'm working from home and they come in the house. It's mayhem. So outside of that would be the times to have those internal conversations. And you may have some similar things as well, and your clients will as well. It may be that they gym at 10 o'clock and don't want to be spoken to, or have a regular coffee meeting at 10 with someone internally. Just good to know what's best for them. More often than not now, people are doing 3 days in the office and 2 days at home. It's a very common hybrid thing, and they'll have different hours. So understanding that and knowing when the best times to speak to them and call them is really, 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 really important. And then find out what kind of person they are. Some people genuinely only like email, messaging, call, or video calls. Some people like to meet up in person. Some people don't. One of my biggest ever clients when I was a salesperson was Vodafone back in England. And that was one, and we never met the client in person. at that time, it was all about salespeople have to meet them in person. But the main meeting was done on a teleconference call. We didn't even have video calls back in the early 2000s. It was all done on listening and conference calls. It was all done on proposals sent via emails, then further emails, and then we used to speak quite a lot on the phone, sometimes half an hour, but I never met the person. And when they left the organisation, they asked me to send them an invoice so they could authorise it before they left the organisation, and the e-learning continued even after they left, which was great as a salesperson. But we never met them. But they had set the ground rules. They were quite firm in it. They never wanted to meet. They wanted to keep their time. They were much more of an introvert and preferred those phone calls. So if you can get your client to agree and let you know how they like to be communicated with, you can fall in with them. Find out what other points of contact are relevant as well in the client. If you're dealing with one person, you're always at risk. See if there's someone else you should talk to, get permission to talk to them, and see if there's anyone else in your organisation they want to speak to as well. So open it out. If you can create more touch points within the client from your side and at their side, it's always going to be much stronger. And actually, if they're trying to work through things internally, if they can introduce you and you can help them with that, it's really, really going to work. You're going to have to work in collaboration with them in the truest sense and find out those other points of contact and how to work it through. And be clear on response times. There is some crazy stuff that I've seen, and I reviewed and read a bit recently where, I won't say who, but someone said to the client that they would be there 24/7 for them, which I questioned quite clearly and said, I don't think you're going to be responding at 1 a.m, are you? What do we mean by this? If someone sends you an email, it's okay to say, look, we'll acknowledge it and respond to you within half a day. My response time, because only one of me is actually 1 day, 1 business day, I'll respond to you. I'm usually quicker than that, but I like to set it like that just in case. If I'm in a training course most of the day or from a conference, it'll be hard for me to respond. So I think if you set that expectation, people will do it. If they really want to get hold of you, they'll probably pick up the phone or call you and say, look, it's really urgent. I'm really sorry. And there's always an exception. But be clear on those response times on both sides and stick to it. It will lead to a better relationship. If you say I'll respond within 4 hours and you're always responding within 4 hours, they're going to be much more relaxed. They know they can fire off a question, get it back in 4 hours or so, be very, very happy. It doesn't have to be instant. We live in an instant world and people feel it has to be instant, but I don't think people want that. They'd rather have a better, good answer and a good response, knowing it's going to come and in what time. Now look at how you can be empathetic, which is easy for some people to say, and understanding with your client. Because we can use the word empathy, I need a drink of water. So I'm just going to play you a clip. Hopefully it works.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
No, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See, you're
out.
not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like...
Ooh.
There's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can't go on?
Hopefully the audio came through on that wonderful clip about it's not about the now. Very simple message. It was actually used as an advertising campaign for divorce lawyers in the States, I believe. But really that idea of people want to be listened to, not try and solve things, even if it seems an obvious fix. If they just want to share, we need to learn to listen. But how do we listen? It's actually harder than it sounds. Getting that listening techniques right. The first thing to do is think about the questions you're going to ask someone. In advance, the best planning you can do for any meeting isn't learning all about them or trying to understand their client. And yes, we've gone through some of those processes, but actually think about what questions you're going to ask them. What is it you're going to ask them that engages them? The best client relationship builders or salespeople, if you want to term that, are great at questions. If you want to sell someone a pen and you want to do that lovely little trick that was made famous in the Wolf of Wall Street movie, it's all about what questions you ask someone. It's not about selling the benefits of the pen, it's about how you ask questions. And eventually, if you ask enough questions, you get to a point where they want to buy something for you. So having those questions is a really good way to understand someone and show you're listening. And if the questions then flow and follow up, it's really, really important. Don't be afraid of silence. When you're not speaking, the other person will want to fill those gaps. Also, sometimes just allow yourself a little time to breathe. Once they've finished talking, before you ask the next question, just pause, count to 1 to 3 in your head. Let yourself absorb what they've said fully, and then you can ask the next question. It's really hard to actually ask serious follow-up questions because you have to listen and then respond. If there are 2 of you available in your organization, you can meet a person, it's better. Because that's one of you ask the first question, and both be listening, the other person can listen and ask the follow-up question. Sometimes when we're there and talking to someone, we're not listening as much as we should because we're thinking about the next question, when actually you should try and listen, pause, and then think about the next question. And embrace silence. If you ever do customer feedback or post-bid response things, the best thing to do is ask a question and stay as silent as possible for as long as possible. I think my best is I've asked 2 questions and got all the information from a pitch feedback just because I've said very, very little. So the opposite today for me. But just being quiet, they will fill the space and start to tell you stuff. And if they do raise an issue or a challenge or something they're struggling or grappling with, ask them if they do want any help, if they do want to resolve it. Don't assume that just because they're sharing a problem that they actually want to solve it. It's not always about the now. So ask them, is this something they're looking to resolve? If so, what kind of help do they need with it? It may be they are looking to resolve it, they've got help internally, or they're already dealing with someone. But they may ask if you know someone. So it's really, really important to have that in place, that ability to ask. And always offer a friendly ear. At some point, we all want someone just to listen to us, someone we can vent to. So if you can be that person, just be there to listen to them. Let them have the vent, let your client talk about the things they want to talk about in a non-judgmental environment, and they'll really, really appreciate it. Sometimes they'll just want to tell you they're not feeling great, and that's okay too. If you are going to bring someone along, don't surprise people. Nobody likes that. Let them know in advance. Hey, I'm going to bring along whoever it might be, and the reason I'm bringing along, I just thought it might be an interesting mix for you to chat about this. So always set the scene early. Don't just bring people along. And when you're relating to people, avoid that story swapping trap or that top trumps of stories where someone tells you they've had a problem and you tell them you have an even bigger one. Doesn't really land well. There's a middle ground between sharing stories and being the person who always has a bigger, more dramatic story. Nobody wants someone with a bigger, more dramatic story who kind of rains on their parade. It's not a competition at this point. So if you are a competitive person, just be aware of that in there. That it's okay to share, but you don't want to trump someone. Give them some positive reinforcement. Share that others in the sector are finding it tough. Say that what you're hearing in the market is it is tough out there. They're not alone. It will make them feel slightly better. It'll also make them feel that this is something that's happening that they've just got to work through. But just share that others in sectors are finding it tough. Remind them while recovery is actually happening, it is still tough right now. Yes, the green shoots are there, but it's going to take a little time. It's not going to be instant. And depending on the sector they are, and if they're the sort of sector that relies on projects landing in 6 months' time and got a position for it now, and it's got to go through the approval process, then it's going to take time to improve. But it will happen. And to stick at what they're doing the right things. Reassurance is really, really good. As humans, we all want reassurance. And remind them that you're always there to listen. If they need someone to sound a sounding board or someone just to hear them, you're there. So always remind them that positive reinforcement is so, so powerful. But how do you maintain that good communication and win more work? Well, the first thing to do is establish your contact map. So insert here, you need to know who your client is, put the name of the person is. Find out what help needed from you. So could it be commercial contacts, tracks, design a commercial fit out? Have your last contact date, your next agreed contact date, and put when you last did. It's really important to focus on when that next agreed contact date is. If you have a list of 10 to 20 key people that you need to talk to, when you last spoke to them and when you're next going to speak to them, and you stick to it, that will guide you through this process. That will be making you super responsive on that proactive communication trail and exactly where you need to be. So we'll be giving you as part of your package after this, the contact map. Really simple to use, but now you've seen it, you can put it in your own Excel. You don't need me to type it for you necessarily, and just follow it through. It really, really works. Then have your questions lined up. Is this still a priority? Make sure you check that. Has something more important come up? If you're in that moment and you're working on the deal, find out. If they're delaying, could be for a variety of reasons. Might not be a priority anymore. Something else more important may have come up. I know we've been talking about this potential deal, but I was wondering in general how things are going at the moment. Kind of shift the conversation, get them to open up about the wider business issues and context. That may give you a good steer as to why things are holding up. It may be that something else needs to be resolved before they can move on to committing to that deal with you, in which case you now know what you can help them with. Those questions are really, really powerful. It can help you understand the client better and help keep that deal going rather than just being a pest and chasing. Remember, in this market, patience is absolutely a virtue. Things are taking a ridiculously long time. Clients are very, very slow in their response rates. So be patient, more patient than normal. If you have the urge after you've sent something to email them or chase them up a week later, give it another week. Just allow a bit more breathing time than you normally would. And it's more likely that they'll come back to you and they'll surprise you. And when you're in that point of trying to win that deal, win that work, have some more questions lined up. Is there any further information you need from me? Do you have all you need to make the best decision for you? Really, really powerful question when you're in that closing environment. Just checking in. I'm amazed how many people don't ask when you will make a decision, when we make a decision on this buy. If they say the 3rd of April, you know when you can follow them up. So that's really important. So have that ready to go. Then we've got, what are the next steps in terms of making a decision? That one's often overlooked as well. Sometimes the person you're talking to, we assume has a decision-making authority, but they may need to go through a business case. Someone else may need to sign it off. Understanding that will help you understand how long it will be and where you are in the actual qualification and sales process. You can also go for the assumptive one of when would you like to get started on this. Depends on the setting. All these things are always contextual, but they're great questions. But right now, one of the reasons people ghost you or aren't giving you an answer is they're embarrassed to say no. In this part of the world, particularly, people don't like confrontation, so they don't like saying no. So sometimes if you really can't get an answer, I would send something like, I understand that priorities change. This may no longer be important to you. You might be even considering someone else or something different. Can you let me know if this is the case or if you're still interested? Always gets a response. Even if it's not the response that's favourable or the one you want, it's better than not knowing. The worst thing is not to know. They are more likely to use you in the future if you've helped them deliver the bad news. Because now they feel like you're someone that's easy to work with. And ease of doing business is really, really vital. So this is a really good tool and tactic for long-term relationships and also getting that answer without pressurizing someone. I did promise you how to increase your chance of future work and referrals. So as we're getting into the final stages here, hopefully the last big glug of water, let's talk about how you can do that, build your referrals and get future work. At the end of a matter or project, it's about actively asking. You said you've dealt with this well. You said you feel we've dealt with this well. Is there anyone else you can introduce me to? Is there anyone else you feel might need this help? With existing clients, anyone else who could need similar assistance? We've been working together now for 10 years. Is there anyone else you think who could benefit from this kind of stuff? Or is there anyone else in your company or organization I should meet? They're simple questions. Having the confidence to ask them is really key. And if you practice them, you'll feel more ready to ask them at the right moment. But the most simple question is there anyone you would like me to refer you to? You're not even asking, you're offering. It's really, really powerful. Most people at this point, studies will show, will more likely to say, I'm not sure, but who can I refer you to? So they will throw it back and make the offer back, which means you'll get the referrals without having to ask for them. Even if they do answer the question, then you're helping them out and you're going to pass those referrals on great. And probably at the end of that, they go, that's great. Thanks for helping me out with those referrals. Can I help you now? As humans, we're hardwired. If someone helps us, we want to help them. We want to give it back. If someone offers, we want to offer back. So it's a really good way of doing it, is to make the offer. You'll feel less awkward as well. But also vital, you've got to show interest during of whatever it is you're working on. Check in with them, see how it's going, see how things are progressing. That's obvious. But keep sending them stuff that's not related to the work you're doing. Things that are wider industry things, any related info. And have relationship meetings. Booking meetings, particularly on the longer projects, where you agree that you're going to discuss stuff, anything except the project or matter you're working on. Build those relationships meetings in. Talk about wider stuff. That will help build it in. That will give you a better understanding of the client and will position you for any future work and give you a better reason to get back in touch after you've stopped doing the work that you're currently doing with them. So it's really important to have those in place. Moving on to last bit is when to ask and when not to ask for work. First thing is, should you actually ever ask for work? Please, sir, can I have some more? Most clients don't like being asked for work. It does feel like the begging bowl. They know as consultants you want work. That's the reason you're there. So they're aware of that. They want you to help them and then they'll give you the work. They don't want you to ask. But you should position for the work when what you do will help your client, take their concern or pain away. So say, look, hey, that is something I can help you with. Would you like to discuss it further? And only position yourself after they feel fully listened to. Once they've finished airing everything they want to, then you can start asking these questions. And then go before, and even then check in, before we go talking about this future deal or project, is there anything else you'd like to discuss or share? Check back in to make sure that everything's covered off before you get onto the stuff that's important to you. That releases huge endorphins for them. It's a really powerful question. Most people shy away from that because, well, finally we're at the point we're about to get the deal done. I need to focus on that. But actually, if you can hang off a little bit longer, it's going to work really well for you. It's also going to make them feel like you really, really, really care and appreciate them. And that's the end of that. My closing thoughts is Pretty simple. Take an interest in your client as a person and their business. Listen more than you speak. Always communicate in the way you prefer. Be very, very patient. Be prepared to invest time in a relationship now more than ever. And budgets are low. It's a long-term game. If you do it right, you'll have great clients for life. You'll have ridden through the hard times with them, and you can enjoy the good times. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Hey, Ben.
Hey.
Thanks for that. That was brilliant. Really enjoyed it. Just one question, really. For those of us that are business development professionals, a lot of this is obviously very, very clear and makes a lot of sense. I guess the biggest issue really is to actually, how do you communicate this to individuals or people in the team that are actually spending their day actually delivering projects? How do we sort of get them to sort of see this as a vital part of what they need to be doing?
I think there's obviously some organizational parts of that, right? But I think one of the best things I've seen in this kind of environment is when people ask the question, like, I'm going to ask you regularly what you learned about your client outside of what you're working on with them. So once a week, we're gonna all share what, since you've been on site, what else is going on in their world. And we want you to feed one or two things back. That kind of forces the conversation and creates that culture of curiosity. So that expectation that you're there to do more than just work and check in is really, really powerful, right? And in doing so, they'll start uncovering opportunities without them even realizing when they feed back. Does that make sense?
Yep, actually, good thing to think about, actually. So thank you.
Awesome. If you've no more questions, David, I think everyone else has had to dash off to meetings. So
no problem.
We're at a close.
This is great. Thanks for doing this. Really enjoyed it.
No, it's a pleasure.
Take care.
Thanks for attending, and we'll send all the stuff out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.